Hi, Titans.
Great. Well, thanks for coming along. It's exciting to sort of get the reaction to this stuff, because I was sitting in South by Southwest listening to it all, and it felt very important, and sort of getting the reaction that I have since being home sort of means that it was important and my judgment's okay. So what I'll talk to you about today is sort of like 5 ideas or things, or I suppose directions which every business is moving, and more importantly, like the ad industry in particular, this is directed at us, for us, regardless of what we do for the agency. We can all take pieces of this and start applying it to everything we do, and I think the results will be surprising for us all. They are 5 ideas, but they all sort of mash into one or the other. So let's just get stuck in, shall we? The first thought is the Thank You Economy, which is a book written by Gary Vaynerchuk, and he sort of not only has written a book, but he sort of spoke at South by Southwest about the importance of saying thanks, essentially. And the nature of that goes right back to the fact that the old stores had it right. Sort of pre-industrialisation, the baker and the butcher and all that sort of stuff, they had the right model, where when you ordered your half dozen buns, the baker gave you a 7th. When you walked into the butcher shop and mum was ordering the chops, he'd slip you a Frankfurt, and you'd never buy meat or bread anywhere else after that point. And I think if we can start acknowledging that trend of boards of directors choosing the strategic direction of businesses and brands and companies is a crap model, because quite often it's the people who actually buy and use your product or your service that will take your brand in that direction. And the point is, too often we've been doing mass messages to a lot of people, and it's out of context. And as a result, us as end users have sort of become numb to these messages. We've probably seen hundreds already today. A few subconsciously would have taken note, and probably one maybe we'd remember and investigate further. So what Gary was talking about was this movement of the humanisation of business. How we behave as humans is how business should start behaving with their customers. We couldn't get away with, he used the example of American Airlines cancelling his flight, and that was the end of the conversation. He walked out of the terminal, had to go and stay in a hotel, and American Air didn't even send him a text to say sorry. Now, if we tried to get away with that, cancelling a meeting and just walking away from it, we'd be out of a job within a few weeks, I reckon. And if we tried to hold down a relationship, whether like of any sort of degree, behaving like that, it would not last. So what he's saying is, like, the world is now our company. Like, we need to start acknowledging that you can't behave like a company to a customer anymore on a mass scale. It's now one-to-one. I've just finished paying off my loan for my car with Westpac. I paid every month on time without question. And the account's just been deleted from my statement. Not even a thanks for doing business. You know, and so next time when I do go to get finance, I am going to consider whether I go to my bank or not, because I think that it's just unacceptable. And the key thing is a little bit of effort goes a long way. So if we look at why people choose something over another, it's based on 2 things, right? Convenience, which is sort of kind of out of our hands. It's about distribution and all that sort of stuff. And is it nearby? But the powerful thing, especially for us as ad folks, is we've got to focus on the relationship context. And that can range from my brother drinks it, he likes it, or I saw a cool guy driving that car, so I'm interested in that car. Like, we have the ability to create context for our brands in people's lives and influence that relationship that people have with it based on the context that they've been served up that communication in. So in short, if content is king, then context is God. And we need to start appreciating that. A little bit of context goes a very, very long way. A nod to Gary Vee and the nature of his business is a great example to the context. He's got an online store where he sells wine. Now his model or his policy is he personally replies to every single email, every single tweet he'll respond to. If someone acknowledges him positively, he'll say thank you, personally. And he should use the example of, he's got some guy who spends several thousand a year on wine. And this guy was consistently being a great user of his business. And he said, we need to reward him more so than just saying thank you regularly. So his staff said, you know, do we want to send him a hamper or do we want to send a dozen wines? And he goes, no, just spend 20 minutes researching this guy and figure out what he's into. So they found out he liked wine, he liked cars, and he liked The Clash. So they jumped on eBay, they went and bought a signed version of London Calling and FedExed it to him and said, thank you for your business. And I think that the point is that now cements him as being a customer for life. Now, the value of a customer for life is extraordinary. Like, if we want to talk about ROIs, imagine the promise that that person will never buy anywhere else. And beyond that, he's actually going to tell his friends that he received this record completely off the bat of this company. They gave a shit about him, not as just being a premium customer, about being Larry. So, in conclusion, the thank you economy is just about brands like really needing to behave like humans. And if we wonder how we do that, let's just look at how we interact in real life with the people around us, both in work and on the outside. The second thing which resonated with me is the concept of agencies thinking like a software company, and obviously applying that to the work we do for our brands. The model, which I've called it old here, it could be called traditional, or I'm not necessarily saying this is broken, but it kind of compares to Hollywood, where we get a brief, we write the script, and then we go and get our cast together and we shoot the movie, and then we do our big premiere, and it sort of gets a lot of buzz and banter, and then it sort of box office dies off a bit, and then we cut it, and then we put it on DVD, and it kind of fizzles, and and then 6 months later we get the idea for the next movie. And it's sort of, the model needs to kind of shift from this structure to like the software model, which is, as opposed to build and launch and kind of fizzle, it needs to be sort of build a platform, update, listen, update, listen, update, listen. Because when Jobs and Wozniak, this is taken in their garage in 1975, they sort of said that what Macintosh is going to be about is listening to what people want and then just sort of connecting the needs of people, as opposed to the industrialization method of we're making a laptop for the masses and they are going to use this, as opposed to, you know, I think that, you know, a phone with one button made out of glass is something that people would want. And it's about us building stuff, listening, testing and learning, and applying that to an ongoing and growing model. So in short, experimentation is a great business model. Now we can start small. This isn't a complete overhaul, but like dabbling on the side in small doses can lead to magic, you know. And I think that it's just about starting, and it comes down to like, it doesn't matter what the title on your business card is. We're all very capable of coming up with cool stuff because we drink beer, we drive Mercedes, we use NAB everyday banking. What do we want? You know what I mean? Just because it says planner on my card doesn't mean I can't sort of acknowledge what awesome stuff is. Good example of this is in Texas. American Express held hands with Foursquare for a promotion where they just called it like a testing ground. If I have an Amex card, I walk into a shop and I check in, I spend more than $5. 3 days later, Amex will credit $5 to my account. And they basically said, you know what, as a model, it may work, it may not, but we're just going to push the boat out and we're going to listen to what our card holders want and how they use it. So this is now the platform at which they may say, you know what, the Starbucks didn't really work, but more high-end restaurants being Amex card holders, generally a bit more net wealth, maybe we just move into restaurants and do that. So let's dabble with restaurants now. The fact that they had a platform means that they could adjust and maneuver and just make it far more successful.